Hello, I'm Hannah Martin, the founder of Talent Leaders Club, and in this class, we're going to talk about pricing. But before we do, I just want to introduce myself. As I said, I'm Hannah Martin. I'm the founder of TLC. I'm also an award-winning copywriter, a psychotherapist, and hypnotherapist. I've grown TLC up since 2013 to have over 120,000 monthly visitors. I've created dozens of successful courses, including social media training for Google, a business mentor for NatWest. I'm a member of two all-party parliamentary groups and I'm a mum of two. So, why is pricing, getting your pricing right, so important? According to McKinsey, pricing right is the fastest and most effective way for managers to increase profits. And small changes in price can lead to big profits. McKinsey and Co. studied the Global 1200 and found that if they raised prices by just 1%, their profits would go up by an average of 11%. And yet, many small businesses are very reluctant to price even what they should be pricing, let alone increase their price. And there are a few reasons why, and these are the myths that we tell ourselves. So, to help break down these myths, let's look at them. So, the first myth we tell ourselves is if it's cheaper, people will like me more. If it's cheaper, people will be more grateful. If it's cheaper, it'll be easy to sell. If it's cheaper, people will choose me over my competition. And if it's cheaper, I won't worry if it's good enough. Now, all of these things are not correct, as you will learn over the course of this class. But let's look instead at what the five pricing truths are. So people will buy if they need what you're selling. People will buy if your marketing appeals to them. People will buy if they believe you're the best. People will buy if the time is right for them. And people will buy if your price matches the perceived value. So it's got nothing to do with it being cheap, but it's all about if it's the right product for them at the right time and you're the right person to be selling it. So let's look now about your transaction price and find out what that is. So there are costs. A transaction price is what you need to be charging when you make a transaction. Now, there are a number of things you need to take into account when you do that. And these include your business running expenses. Now, these are costs that you incur whether you sell one thing or nothing. These are just your general costs. It's things like your Wi-Fi, your rent, utilities, whether you pay freelancers, printer and ink, mobile, stationery, software, bank charges. All of these are charges that you might occur whether you have sold anything or not. And they need to be taken into account when you price. You also need to include everything that it costs you to do or make one of what you are selling, whether that's an hour of your services or one of your products. And this includes your material costs, delivery, travel, marketing and social media, outsourcing, tax, commission, and your time. And when we talk about time, we need to know how much you need to charge for your time. And to find that out, we need to know a few things. So we need to know how many hours a day you want to or can work, how many days a week you can work, how many weeks a year, and then from that, you work out how many hours a year you can work. And you also need to know the income you need. And I'm just going to show you now how you work out because this is the cost of your time. So here's an example. Let's say that you can work 5 hours a day and you can work 5 days a week and you can work 38 weeks a year. So 5 hours a day by 5 days a week is 25 hours a week. If you can work 38 weeks a year, sorry, 25 by 38 is 950. So you can work 950 hours every year. Now, let's say you want to earn or need to earn £30,000 a year. That makes your hourly rate £31.57. It's a really important sum to work out because if you are not making that, then you are not ever going to get to £30,000. If your hourly rate is not at least 31.57, and as you can see from other costs, it needs to be higher. But if your hourly rate is not even at least that, there's no way that you will earn £30,000 a year. So it's so important to work this sum out. Other considerations include where you are on the value premium scale and what profit margin you wish to make. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the value premium scale for a second. So this is, if you think about every product or every industry has things that are really cheap and probably low quality and things that are really expensive and high quality. The example I like to give is if you take shops, two well-known shops, Harrods and Poundland. Harrods, high-end, premium, luxury products, expensive products. high ticket value. Poundland, it's just cheap. Everything, well, it used to be a pound, it's not anymore, but it's still cheap. And they're everyday products. You're not going to expect to find something high quality in Poundland. Now, if you sold a jar of marmalade, there's that marmalade. If you bought a jar of marmalade in Harrods, you'd expect that to be very high quality marmalade, possibly kind of, hand cut, whatever, like artisan marmalade with a beautiful label, expensive jar, expensive price tag. Poundland, you're expecting to buy mass produced, kind of bog standard marmalade, and you're expecting it to be cheap. And I want you to think between that Harrods and Poundland, where you sit. Are you something that is relatively low quality, mass produced, cheap and cheerful, but you sell at volume? Or are you at the higher end where you are higher value? It's really important to think where you sit along that scale because you need to price accordingly. If you went to Poundland and saw a jar of marmalade for £18, you wouldn't buy it because you're not there to buy an £18 jar of marmalade and you wouldn't think it was good quality because it's in Poundland. Equally, if there was a jar of marmalade for £1 in Harrods, people wouldn't buy it because they would think it couldn't possibly be good quality. They've come to Harrods to buy something high end, and if it's £1, it's probably not great quality, and they wouldn't buy it. This is why your price needs to match where you are on the scale, because just going cheap could actually alienate the people who really want what it is you sell and what your worth is. So to recap, your pricing needs to take into account your business running expenses, your expenses in making and delivering your offering, your time, your place on the market, and how much you need to earn. And here's a quick tip. Start keeping a timesheet to track where you spend time in your business and where you're earning money. Now, this can be especially helpful if you track it connected to what things you sell. So let's say you've got different products or different services. I recommend tracking your time in each of those products or services if you can, and then what you sell them for and how many hours you've worked on them, because then it can start telling you which of those products or services are bringing you the most amount of money per hour. And you can do, for example, you can work up, sell more of those, or you can look at ways to make more money from the products that earn you less or services that earn you less. It's a really good way of seeing inside your business. For me, when I did this several years ago, I found out that I was running at that time a program that was several £1,000s. It's a really kind of high-end program. And then I was working with SEO agencies on the website, and that was kind of much more kind of low end, like it was much less money. But when I did my timesheet, I was really surprised to discover that the work with SEO agencies per hour earned me more than this really expensive program I was running because it was a really labor intensive program. And for me, what I did is I just thought, okay, I'm still going to do the high end program because I really enjoy it. And it sort of, it's something I love and I think it gives really good value to people. But the SEO stuff, what I did is I just started doing more of that as well because I recognized that that was a really good way to grow the income of my business and it was really successful and grew as a much bigger part of my business. And I only knew that and I only focused on that because I kept a timesheet. So I recommend you do too. So discounting is a luxury you can't afford. It's really tempting if a client asks for a discount and you really want the business to give one to them. But discounting just leads to lower profit or even loss. So politely decline request discounting and try not to use it as a sales tool. And if you're wavering, bear in mind that 1%. If 1% increase in price leads to 11% more profit, what does 1% less lead to? And actually for discounting, are you massively lowering your profits? Now, there are times when you might want to discount. For example, if you're doing like perhaps you're launching a course and you want to do an early bird offer or you want to do a sale for a particular kind of seasonal sale, there are times when it is appropriate. But as a general rule, try not to discount. If you discount too often, what happens? You train people to look for them. So an example is like there are some online stores that I know that will regularly have sales, and a lot of the products will end up in the sale. So I never buy full price for them. I always wait for the sales to come around because I know I can generally find what I want on a discount. And so by doing so many sales, and do them so regularly, it trains people like me who do like a bargain to wait. And I would never buy for them full price because I know every 2 months there's going to be a sale. So why should I pay full price for them? So this is why discounting can be a negative. And here's some pricing rules to avoid discounting. So don't talk about money. This is particularly aimed at freelancers. It's really tempting if you're meeting a client and they'll go, oh, how much do you think this will be? Or if you're on the phone, and to give them a ballpark figure, oh, I think it's about 2 days' work. And then this has happened to me in the past. So I've said about 2 days work and I've gone away and looked at the brief more thoroughly and realized it's about 4 days work, but I've anchored 2 days in my client's head now. And if I go back and say, actually, it's double what I was saying, in their head, it was a cheaper price. And now suddenly I'm expensive. If I'd not spoke about money in the first place, they've got no price anchored there. There are other reasons why you should not talk about money. We're generally tempted to go lower if we talk about it because we don't want to see that the person's face or hear it in their voice when we say a price and they're like, oh, wow, that's more expensive than I was thinking. And then we feel bad and we think we're overcharging and then we value ourselves too much. Maybe we're not that good anyway. All that psychological thing. So if you don't talk about money, you're not at risk of reducing it because you want them to like you and you don't want them to be shocked. It also gives you the chance to really consider what it is and to kind of put more detail about the pricing. So it's going to cost this much. Here's what's included. So they can kind of see it all in an email. And plus it's written down as well. No one can ever say, oh, you said it was this much because it's an email. So never talk about money. Always put an email. Never apologize for your pricing or when I say explain, I kind of mean justify. So, obviously if you're quoting, you'll put what they get, but about over explaining, go like, I'm really sorry, it's going to be 500 quid, but I'm doing a lot and it's going to take me hours and it's really hard work. If you're kind of too justifying it, people kind of think you're not confident about your pricing. And if they think you're not confident about your pricing, it gives them a chink of doubt. They can push that door open and they can ask for a discount. Don't throw in extra discounts to get people to buy. Again, if you are doing a launch, you might do an early bird discount. You might not always, but you might do. But if you're trying to get someone to buy and then like they're on the fence and you go, okay, I'll throw this in and I'll take 10% off for you. I would think really carefully about doing that. There are maybe some circumstances where you might want to do it, but as a rule, I would not. Again, if you've priced properly, then people should buy at that price. You've priced it fairly for the value you're delivering and your expertise, and it's a fair price for them. There shouldn't be a discount. They should want to go with you because you're really good and you've got great marketing. And the final thing is don't cross the pricing line when thinking about customers. And I'm just going to explain what I mean by that. So if we have a look here, there are things above the line. This is what the customer thinks about. So they think, can I afford it? Is it the right time? Do I want to go cheap or luxury? These are things customers think about before they buy. Below the line are things that you think about. So how much does it cost me to make or deliver? What do I need to earn? Where am I on the value spectrum, that quality value spectrum I mentioned earlier? What's the market rate? And how much profit do I want to make? And the things you think about when you price are things below that line. So you think about all those things when you're working out your price. You never think about things above the line. That's the client's business. Literally, it's their business. Like you can't put more money in their bank account so they can afford it. You can't make it the right time for them, and you can't decide for them they want to go cheap or luxury. So don't think about this. At the moment you cross that line and think, oh, can they afford it? You're starting to look to lower your price because you're worried that they can't afford you. That's their business. And if they can't afford it, they're not the right customer. So just to kind of reiterate here, so above the line, some of those things you can tackle with marketing. Is it the right time? You can talk about why now is a really good time. You can talk about why this might save them money. You can talk about why this is great value. So you can help some things in marketing. Some of those things are just plainly out of your control. If someone has lost their job and is broke, there is nothing you can do that means they can afford what you're selling if it's not an essential. And some of those people are just not your customer. If someone wants to go cheap and you sell something expensive, there are Poundland customers who will never buy from Harrods. And there are Harrods customers who will never buy from Poundland. It doesn't matter how great Poundland's marketing is, they're never going to attract Harrods and vice versa. So just understand that some of those people aren't your customer and focus on those who are. And the things below the line, they're what you should base your pricing on. So I want to give you a really quick cheap pricing example. So it's really tempting to think, if I charge less, I'll sell more. But let's look at an example here. So let's say you want to buy some new headphones and you find three products. One is £90, one is £30, and one is £3. Now, which one do you buy? 90, 30, or 3? So what we all like a bargain. Personally, I'd worry that the £3 headphones wouldn't be very good. They probably have poor sound quality, feel uncomfortable, and break easily. Now, if I was a real muso and I wasn't price sensitive, I'd probably splash out on the £90 pair. But if I wasn't that flush right now, and actually I just need them to listen to podcasts walking to and from work, I'd probably go with the middle ground, which is £30 a pair. I think they're going to be good enough quality, they're going to last, and they're not luxury. And most people do that. Most people go for the middle ground. So think about this. Next time you're tempted to price yourself, just say you were cheap, if not the cheapest. What does that say about to customers about your quality? And you just risk potentially alienating people who might have bought from you otherwise. So let's say you're watching this class, you're thinking, gosh, I really need to raise my prices. So how do you tell an existing client or customer about your prices? So here are a few things. Whether you're writing or speaking, be confident. Don't let doubt creep into your tone of voice or written tone. Be logical. Give them a reason why. It's not over explaining, but it's just explaining why. And for example, like January is a great time to raise your prices. Like it's the new year. Here's my 2025 price list. Also, everyone knows that the cost of businesses running costs have gone up and the cost of everything has gone up. So it's also logical that, our prices have, our costs of doing business have increased. So unfortunately, we have to pass some of them on. Be brief. Don't over explain your decision, as this will come across as lack of confidence or doubt. Um, Tell them why when they start. So let them know when the new charges come into force. So you tell them that your prices are this is the price going up, and let them know if it's going to be in a week or 2 weeks. Generally, I'd say give them a little bit of time, even if it's just a week, because some people may have been on the cusp of buying and they've budgeted for this, and so therefore suddenly they were going to buy it today and the price has gone up and they can't afford it. So generally, like a week, a month, depending on kind of how big your products are. But it's really good time. Also, you might get a few extra sales in people who are on the fence going, oh, I'll buy quickly before they get their prices up. Don't be uncertain. Don't ask clients what they think of the prices or if they're happy with them. It's not their business. And it also indicates that maybe you're not confident in them. And certainly don't invite negotiation. That's absolutely a big no-no. Your prices are your prices. They're your business. Remember, things above the line, the client worries about. Things below the line, you worry about. It's your business, literally. So if you're going to write an email to clients or customers, let them know you're putting the prices up. Here's how I might structure it. You start off with a short personal introduction. It might be, if you know them, it could be like, "Hi Hannah, how are you? Hope the house move went well. And all your pets settled in okay." If it's a kind of to your customers, going, "Hello everyone. Hope you're enjoying the summer." Such as it is, it's a bit chilly for summer, isn't it? So just something, just like a bit kind of like to kind of warm up rather than go straight in bang with the bad news. Then no, do get straight to the point. Explain why you rate that you're raising a price and why. List your new packages and rates or attach a link to them if that's appropriate. And then tell them when they will start. So, these will come into force at this time, and then sign off confidently and also friendly, going, if it's someone like, "Hope you're well, look forward to catching up soon," or to customers going, like, just, hope you love our products, or whatever it might be. But a nice confident sign off. Keep it short, to the point, breezy, confident, friendly, professional. Now, there might come a time when you do give someone a discount or a freebie. And here's how to do it. It is important to invoice them, even if it's for free. Um, and it's also important to put what the full amount is and then take the discount off, even if the discount is 100%. And the reasons for this is it tells everyone, including you, that you're offering value. It lets them know that this is actually the value of what they're getting. So they appreciate that what it actually costs. It also means that they're not going to forget you gave them a discount and go, "Oh yeah, you must buy from Hannah. It's only 50p." And actually it was £3, but you gave them a huge discount. So it will remind them it actually is £3 and they won't tell someone it was 50p because that's what they paid. Also reminds them next time they're buying from you that, "Oh, I only paid 50p last time." No, the invoice was £3. So it keeps a record for everyone. Everyone knows what the situation is and everyone understands the value of what you're offering, so that no one can be in any doubt. How to eliminate price rise fears. So I'm going to tell you a very brief story about my gardener. I often tell this story, so I apologize if you heard it before, but it's a really powerful one. So many years ago now, I had a gardener. He was brilliant. My previous gardener had charged £15 an hour. He'd left. This guy came along. He was much better than my old gardener, but he was only £10 an hour. Now, I had been on and on and on him about why he was too cheap. And he was such a modest guy. I went, "No, I can't put my prices up. No one will buy from me." He really lacked confidence. Then one February, it'd been a really rainy January. He hadn't come in or come to work because it had been really raining. And when he came back, I said, "How are you?" He goes, "Oh, I'm really struggling. My partner's a carer, and she hurt her back in January, so she wasn't working, and I didn't work because it's raining. And we're really we're really broke. And so I revisited this conversation we've had many a time, and I went, look, you really need to change your prices. And look, if you double your prices, even if you lose half your customers, you'll earn the same amount of money for half the amount of work. And I promise you, you will not lose your customers because you're a really good gardener. No one wants to lose you. And it's not like you're overcharging. You are worth £20 an hour easily. And I think because he was finally like in this really difficult position, he took my advice and he did it. Now, what happened was that he didn't lose a single customer because that £20 an hour is actually really where his pricing should have been. And in fact, he started winning big contracts. There's a big kind of estate just outside my town where like celebrities and live on these huge kind of houses and beautiful grounds. He started picking up work there because he was charging more. Then it was considered that he was probably a better gardener. So it had an amazing effect on his business. This was several years ago, and I hope very much that he's been putting his prices up every year since, in line with inflation and costs, and he's no longer £20 an hour. But I want to share this with you because, like my gardener, you might be undercharging and fearful that if you put your price up, you'll alienate people. But actually, the reality is that if you are putting your prices up and you've considered them properly, like the exercise we did earlier on, then your prices will be right, and you're more likely to win more business rather than lose it. And even if you do lose some business, they aren't your ideal customer, they don't value you, and you'll earn more from the people who do stay with you. So here's what happens if you undercharge. So if you're not charging enough, you stop enjoying what you do and you start procrastinating. Like find reasons not to do it. You won't put as much effort or time in, and you produce lower quality work, which is a vicious cycle down. You begin to resent your client and your work. You'll not earn enough to continue and be forced to give up, and you'll fall out of love with what you do. It's a really sad story, this, and you can really kind of picture this decline. And the thing is, you're doing what you do because you're good at it, you love it, it brings value to the world. And if you don't charge enough and then you reduce your quality, you fall out of love with it, you give up and you go and get a job doing something else, everyone has lost. You've lost, your clients lost, the world has lost. So you really deserve for all of those things, for you, your clients and customers, and the world at large, to use your talents and skills and be paid well for them because you're far more likely to be successful and stay doing it if you charge enough. And here are some pricing mindset reframes that can help you. So no one has a gun to your customer's head. It's a free market. If they don't like your pricing, they can buy elsewhere. Don't feel that you have to charge a smaller amount to keep your clients happy or to make it easy for them. They can buy from other people. Also think about, would your customers work for less than they deserve or at a loss? Would they do extra for free, or would they agree to a pay cut if asked? Imagine like if you're really struggling to kind of do it, think about if your client or customer has got a job and their boss said, can you work for 10% less this month? They wouldn't do that. Well, if they said, can you come in on Sunday and work for free? They wouldn't do that. So why do you think they would expect you to work for less or to work for free? So if you're ever struggling to think about, I can't raise my prices because I can't charge my customers more, what you're doing is that you're giving yourself a pay cut. Year on year, with the cost of living especially, you're working for less and less. Your customers and clients wouldn't work for less, neither should you. And finally, if a customer or client likes, respects, and values you, they'll be happy to pay what you're worth. They won't want to pay you any less. It made me really uncomfortable to know that my gardener was not charging what he needed to charge. My husband said, like I'm always telling people they should charge more money. We have cleaners. I make them every year send a text their customers out and raise their prices. And this is the other thing. If you raise your prices a small amount year on year, you'll never end up with this thing where you suddenly realize that you're earning way too less, but you have to put your prices up by a large amount because you left it too long. Small amounts regularly, small increases annually will keep your prices at the way they should be without ever having to have a really awkward conversation with people. Because like people that I'm very happy and more comfortable, in fact, paying people what they deserve than I am trying to get things for less from them. And good customers are like that. They will want you to earn what you what you deserve to be earning. And if they're not, then you don't want them as a customer. Remember, discounting is a lower profit, so politely decline requests for discounting and try not to use it as a sales tool. Bear in mind that 1% if you're wavering. And before I finish up, I want to end with one quick story. So Charlotte is someone I work with. I mentor her, and we had a conversation because she recently raised her prices, and she was worried they were now too high and putting off clients. She was having a wobble, which is really common, and she was considering reducing her prices. But first, I suggested she examine the data because I thought I said to her, you can't have a knee-jerk reaction without looking as to whether they have actually impacted your sales. So I asked Charlotte to go back over 2 years of data and noting how many inquiries and bookings that she had had every month. So how many people had inquired about her services and how many people had actually booked her every single month for 2 years. So Charlotte was, for context, was a CV writer. And she's quite high end, so she charges quite a lot. So she has, not that huge amount of bookings every month, but they're all quite a lot of money. So I then put her data into a spreadsheet and I worked out her conversion rate each month. And that was the percentage of people who booked after inquiring. So, for example, if she had 10 people inquiring and 5 people booking, she had a 50% conversion rate. So I organized the data, so I did two spreadsheets. In one of them, I organized the data. So the months that had the highest number of conversions, the highest number of bookings to the top, and the months that had the highest conversion rate. So then the percentage of people who actually bought, so hired her over those who inquired. And then I asked Charlotte to let me know the date. So she'd raised her prices twice in this 2 year period. So I asked her to let me know when those dates were. And here's the interesting thing. The months where Charlotte had raised her prices and those immediately afterwards, her conversion rates went up. Not down, they went up. As it turned out, more people were booking her at her new higher rates. So it's actually the opposite to what she feared, that actually she was earning more money or getting more bookings when she put her prices up. So this gave Charlotte the confidence to keep her prices where they were. The data proved that her prices were right. And what about you? If you haven't already, I recommend that you record and gather data on your leads on an ongoing basis. So this can be, if you're a freelancer like Charlotte, you can kind of record any inquiries and record any bookings and then just kind of see how they tally up. If you are, for example, let's say you sell products and you sell kind of large numbers, you can look at other ways that you record data, how many visits to a page over time, every month and how many sales you've got, just other ways that you can maybe track your data and see what impact raising your prices has on your sales.